Welcome to Human or Athlete. Before I introduce our first guest and get on with our first conversation, just quickly wanted to touch on why I've started this podcast and this journey. Over the last couple of years, I've been on a big journey myself to question a lot of things, to find myself, and really kind of go into more depth about who I am, where I want to go, who I want to be. And I think it was a conversation that I wanted to express. I wanted to put out there. My dream since I've been so young is to become, the best footballer I can be and live out that professional footballer dream. And personally, with the people I'm around, it's a conversation of being more than a footballer. That conversation isn't really talked about in football. It's not something that's normally expressed, and probably most people aren't comfortable with it. And so it was a real kind of idea that to put this out there, to change that culture, to ask those questions and to get people on who are already embodying that lifestyle, where they do ask and they do look for more outside of their job, their career. And there are many athletes that are already out there doing it, and to connect with a couple of them and have these conversations, it's really exciting. So I'm very, very happy to have got this going and get this out there. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Brandon Thomas Asante, very good friend of mine. Been played together last year at Salford, and he's ripping up in League Two at the moment. So, we've had these conversations over the last year, and been, really enjoying them, really progressing them and loving them. And we obviously manifested being here right now, which is mad because, we said that these conversations have got to go out there, they've got to be out here. And here we are. So, welcome. I'm so excited.
Bro, thank you for the opportunity to be involved in the first one. It's mad, and like you were saying, we've had so many conversations over the phone. It's an interesting one because if whoever knows me knows I'm not normally a one for phone calls, but the way in lockdown, we must have had about how many conversations that last hours, and then just talking about everything. And I'm just thankful that you basically said one day we need to sit down and talk about it, because I think a lot of those conversations, they're not deemed as normal to talk in such depth as hopefully we'll go into today and what we normally do. But I think it's really valuable, and hopefully, I don't know, you never know who it can help.
Yeah, I mean, even that, it started over lockdown. And that's a mad thing in itself, because, you got to be grateful for lockdown for bringing this connection, this relationship. Obviously, we became a lot closer, a lot better friends because of it, because, we opened up to this sort of side to each other at depth. Mm-hmm. And, that was a cool little experience of a lockdown to come out of it. I just want to talk about this shit with you.
Yeah, exactly. No, bro. We're here.
Exactly. Let's go straight into it. So kind of obviously going deep straight away, no holding back. What kind of does that footballer ego, that footballer identity mean to you? What's your relationship with it? When I say ego, obviously kind of not arrogance, not that kind of thing. The ego in how you see yourself, or there's the footballer ego, how you see yourself as a footballer, how a lot of people see the typical footballer. So what's that like? What's that like for you?
I think to start with, it's actually helping me as well, because I know that you have a stronger grasp of what ego means, because there's a common. I kind of think it has a few different meanings, but in what sort of sense do you mean ego?
So, for me, ego is around what society dictates. So, if I've always described it to you, so you have your true self, then you're your truest ego, and then the society ego. Yeah. And the society ego being driving fame and wealth, power, beauty, and pleasure. I think were the 5. So it's kind of all those things that society tells you is what success is, what you have to be as a person, and a lot of the things that are external, and where other people kind of in places on you. This is what it's like to be, and obviously social media is a big part of that, and it's what you kind of expect yourself to be. Yeah, it's not an intuition as to this is who I am, this is what I love, this is what I enjoy.
Definitely it. To be fair, it was, I kind of started out as if it was for the person watching, but it's actually me as well. I kind of needed that. But
I love the honesty.
I've just got to be upfront with it. But for me, with the footballer ego, I don't know. I feel like it can be very sort of misleading, or there's almost, because it's obviously a profession that has sort of a lot of stigma to it. Sometimes it can sort of cause a bit of an illusion with your true self compared to what people sort of deem you to be or expect you to be. I think it's a lot to do with expectation. So my relationship with football is ego. I don't know. It kind of there's positives to it. There's sometimes like you find yourself limited. I don't know. It's a really it's a massive question, to be fair. I think something that all people in our field sort of have had to sort of come to terms with. For some people, it works because there's like you kind of enjoy the perks to what people sort of expect from you, like we're saying, through social media or through the. As you said, I'm in League Two. It's not like I've experienced being in the public eye really, but as you go higher and higher, I think sometimes there's been people who have been lost in that. The money, you see players going bankrupt, losing their relationships and their partners like after retirement, and all of that just goes to sort of show that at one point you're going to come into touch with the reality of who you are, and when people finally lose that sort of footballer ego and that comes out of their eye line, then it can be a bit, I don't know, as I said before, a bit of an illusion. So for me, I try and sort of distance myself from that and try and get people to know me for who I am as much as possible, which isn't always easy.
Exactly. Like I think, like you said, that illusion, the expectations. It's like you go on social media, you look up a footballer, and you expect a blue tick, you expect 100,000 followers, you expect designer clothes, you expect nice cars, you expect the newest boots, you expect all of that, like subconsciously when you look at football or Instagram, and so it's kind of like that's already what's expected, and so then footballers going out there, they're growing up seeing other footballers do that, and so when they get that into themselves, they're like, this is who I have to be to now live up to, because I'm playing for whoever, and now I've made my first team debut. This is now what I have to do. I now have to have expensive clothes, and I have to have, all this sort of stuff, and to show that. And so it's like just that feedback loop that you're stuck in of this illusion that this is who you have to be. And the whole point is, like you said, grounding yourself and just keeping some distance from it. So you don't always, I think, me personally, I know I identify with it sometimes. There's a lot of things where I will be what you class as a typical footballer. But it's about, as often as possible, stepping back and kind of going, is this who I really am? Is this what I really want? Is this going to make, is this just about me being a footballer, or is this actually who I am? If so, great. But
and I think it comes from, you can kind of be very lost. I think it reminds me of, if I had to explain it in a way, I'd say, it's like you're on a muddy path and you see the footsteps leading you one way, and it's just very easy to follow that path. But you kind of have to, it's not, and like you're saying, sometimes doing what you want to do, you might be according with the normal expectations sometimes, and other times you might be totally going against the grain. And I just think as long as you sort of know yourself, I think knowing yourself is an important part, and it really helps. So just seeking yourself, really. But I think one thing that I said to you before that kind of relates to this is I found myself a few times saying, I'm not a four. I'm not a four. I'm not a four. Definitely not. But I'm not a footballer. What I was going to say is I'm not a footballer, but I just play football. And I think that image of a footballer, even it's sad because even when I think about the word footballer, it's kind of cringy. A little bit, isn't it? The fact that you're wearing, it's almost like you're wearing the coat of the previous football players before you, and all of the, all that comes with it. The average of all of the footballers in the past, you're kind of living in that if you're sort of according with the footballer ego. So I try and distance myself.
Do you know what I find so weird as well? Talking that word footballer. Have you ever been in that situation where you don't tell people you're a footballer? And then people go, "Oh, so you're the footballer?" That's it. It's
no, it's the worst.
It's just kind of that's, and I feel like there's like obviously we're not the only profession, and most athletes are known for their sport. But you don't really go around going, oh, like you're the lawyer, you're the one who works in Sainsbury's, whatever it may be. It's like I feel like we're so heavily attached to our job that isn't really that normal in most other like situations.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. I think just with media representation and all of that, it kind of leads everyone to a certain perception, as we're saying. But I think it's just about sort of distancing ourselves from it. I think sometimes it's also like what you were saying about the footballer, the word.
Yeah.
Like it's like even in like I wouldn't say relationships have like I wouldn't say in relationships as such, but in general, I think meeting new people as well, it can kind of it's a bit weird. Like sometimes when they know that you played football, it's very different to if you're just meeting them on a random just people in general. So I think that's also an interesting dynamic to it. So I try and basically not lead with that in general. I'd rather someone just take me for
who you are, exactly. And like I think going on to that, like taking you for who you are, it's like when do footballers, or when is it normal to be around footballers who like heavily kind of express like their values and stuff like that? Like I think that value thing is so interesting because it's like in footballers your values are supposed to be all about the ego.
Yeah.
And it's like so the footballer ego is such a strong connection. Yeah. They're the same thing basically. And so as footballers we're expected to have values around money, around power, around all these sorts of things, beauty and pleasure and like all that. And it's like when do we have these conversations about values of kind of like honesty and how we give to people? Because obviously we also are very fortunate in a situation financially that if you do well in football, obviously you can be rewarded. But those values they're not like talked about or expressed like the real human values. I think we lose that a lot of the time. Yeah, no,
I think it's also what you were saying about social media, and that's even with your one, with your social media, it made me so happy. Like recently, to see you like put books like you reading on there. Like, do you know how like you must have felt with that? Like it's not, you don't see that a lot, and I'm sure like even we were talking about it, and it's like sometimes people they might have had. You're sort of thinking to yourself, what? Like it's almost like that people are going to have a certain thought about it, but why not just be who you are naturally? And I think that was such a relief to see people doing that, like what you did. So I think it's quite inspiring. Like I'd love to allow people to see different sides of me. Sometimes even on my Snapchat, for example, like you see me dancing on my story and just being an idiot. Like I don't like to sort of. I want everyone to know the best and weirdest of me, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. Honestly, like Josh Mad is that you see that and you go like, that's actually sick. It's been himself. Do you know how insecure like I am around that sort of thing? Like putting up that first book on my story, like I was still like, whoa, like this is like literally like this is what other footballers gonna think of this. Like, does this fit my footballer role?
And it shouldn't. That's exactly how it shouldn't be, which is what we've spoken about. But it's so true. Like I think to step away from the footballer ego it's a lot harder than how it should be, but I think that's basically what we're trying to change, really.
Exactly. And then there's like that myth as well. I want to touch on that myth that because like we're footballers and it's all about competition and who's on more and all these sorts of things. It's like they say, I hear so many people say you can't find friends in football, and it's like it's a myth, isn't it?
Yeah, I think well. We've shown that, to be fair. Like I think with the whole sort of competition, as you're saying, really it is easy to get dog eat dog, and with the environment, like it can be quite intense, to be fair. I think, but I think just seeing each other for sort of who we are and actually getting to have conversations with people and seeing different sides to people. We actually get a deeper understanding and a deeper connection. So I think, I definitely agree with that. Like, it's just about stepping out of that, but it's not always easy, as we're saying.
Yeah, and it's just like, when do we have conversations about what we do at home every day?
Yeah.
Like, I've got jokes with players like, "What did you do last night?" The first thing I say to them every single day is, "What did you do last night?"
Yeah.
Instead of just going, "Oh, I'm so sore, like my legs are done, whatever. It's like having actual conversations with training ground about, more to life and not just about the most basic surface level questions, but like, and then by expressing that and asking people, you realise that a lot of people have a lot more in common. And for like in our instance, if you're someone that has depth, you find a lot of people have depth as well. You just don't realise it. Yeah, and you can find really, really good friends in football, and it's one of the worst myths I've ever heard.
Yeah, exactly. That first, like, to start that conversation, sometimes you're having to, like, you don't know whether you're going to get sort of rejected almost, and if someone's going to look at you like, what's this guy on about? But I think sort of stepping out in sort of hope and not being afraid of your perception if someone's going to look at you strange and whatnot.
Exactly, and even that's like with the social media thing. If you're expressing yourself a little bit out there, like I've had this a couple of times now, and like the feelings, and I'm sure you have as well, is I put a book out and someone asked me the next day in training or something, and they're like, "Oh, like that book looked really cool. Like, what's it about? Like, whatever." And so that's such a cool thing for me because I was like so scared of doing it and felt so insecure around it.
Yeah.
But then I didn't know someone had that in them to be interested in reading as well, or reading about something about that self growth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it does. If you don't express yourself, how are other people going to be able to express themselves? Because I think the confidence is to go, "This is who I am," and not hold back, because it might give someone else the opportunity, like we did, to create a really, really good friendship that came out of nothing in a world that even is, not for it in a way.
Yeah. To be fair, I was just trying to cast my mind back. I don't actually know how we first had that first like deep conversation, to be fair, but it must have been through just sort of representing yourself in a way of authenticity.
Wasn't it around the Black Lives Matter?
Was it? Oh yeah, I think it was, to be fair. Yeah. So did I put? Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah. So I think, didn't you? Yeah, we just had a real open discussion about like what we found through this time and stuff, and I think that openness, and I sort of didn't. I think where it started off is I didn't know that you were sort of that open and that seeking after, like, just wanting to know, really. And I think that was really refreshing as well. So
I mean, to be fair, that's obviously an interesting thing to go down, is to like talking about that ego. What's that like with being a black man in? I mean, I can openly say this, in a racist system.
Yeah.
And not specifically in football, just in general.
Yeah.
And how does that balance off, or I don't know, how does it work with being a footballer?
Yeah.
In our system, because like I think obviously you alluded to it before that there are positives to the footballer ego.
Yeah, I think in regards to football, within this current society and what's going on, obviously recently in I wouldn't even just say the last year, but there's been a lot more awareness of it in recent times. But I think with football, it's a really strange one, because obviously I'm not always, as we were saying, not everyone always knows that I'm a footballer. Like if I'm not in my football kit, for example, if I'm in a tracksuit going into a shop, I'm just sort of just your average person, black person. So I think it's interesting, because you see there's a massive contrast between being seen as just a black person and then being seen as a footballer / a black footballer. I think just any footballer in general, really, sort of, as soon as you're sort of seen as a footballer, it sort of gets rid of the sort of passive aggressiveness, or sometimes just aggressiveness, of being black in certain areas. Like, I think I'd given you the example of like going into I told you an example.
Yeah, you did tell me about this. I can't remember what it was exactly. I think it was a supermarket or something. I can't remember. No, it was real estate.
That's the one. So like I went in and I went into an estate agent's. I was just inquiring about like getting on a property ladder, and I remember I went in my shorts and just like a black t-shirt and shorts, and I walked in and I sort of there was a model not a literal model.
Laying on the table.
Yeah. No, there was a setup of the estate.
The buildings.
The buildings of the development. And I just started. Like, me and my mum went in, and we were just asking questions about the different price. Like, I think there were. I think there was 2 beds and 3 bed houses, and we were asking about like the more expensive ones, and there was it was sort of very cagey, sort of as to like giving answers. Like they would sort of give like so they're all right, but have a look at these ones.
Yeah, just like not taking you serious.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
Not at all. And then eventually, like after a while of speaking, I think they asked, so what do you do? And then I said, I play football. And then as soon as I said, like literally her face lit up.
Yeah.
She sounded more excited. She was just giving me a lot more information than before.
Yeah.
And like the woman was really helpful actually, but it just goes to show that the difference in perception and what it gave me access to just through being a footballer compared to being, I believe, it was to do with being sort of black and not having any other thing to go off.
Yeah, young black man.
Yeah, and then after knowing, I mean, that's all you could have really got from
I think it's like, so. I mean, I don't know if I can't remember if you watched, we talked about this, but that Dr. Kahinde Andrews, when he used that example that there's 2 kind of animals in racism, there's the wolf and the fox, and the wolf is probably not seen as much, I mean, unless you go to South America, down south in America.
Yeah.
Not South America. You get the wolf, obviously, but here in England, I don't think there's many blatant racism directly. And obviously, again, I don't know. I can't personally understand it and haven't experienced it. But it's like most of the time, you're not going to get that aggressive in your face racism. But in the background, you've got that cunning fox that's going behind your back and kind of making those observations and looking at it in that way. That is kind of attacking your racist, from a racist perspective.
Yeah.
That you don't quite know about and that is a little bit smarter. And to be fair, probably a lot of people aren't even aware that they're a fox in this system. But it's so interesting to see that, like, we just talked so kind of, not negatively, but kind of like, well, there's so much more to the football, like, than the footballer ego.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, the footballer ego can give you that opportunity.
It can be appropriate.
Exactly. To step, because it's like you're not, as a black person, you don't always get treated equally. Yeah. Obviously, that's the big problem.
Yeah.
and so, exactly, but being a footballer in society is seen as, like, I want to say successful, positive, whatever, sad, like, I mean, ish.
Yeah.
And so, it's like there is there is a benefit, there is obviously a positive thing to it, which is like it's important to see that as well.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one because there are perks in terms of being a footballer, but then it's sort of, you ask yourself, why is that value not put on sort of other professions? And then there's even some quality, even to the point of qualities in people that are not, they don't earn you money, but why can they not be valued in the same way?
Yeah,
and that's one thing that I would love, like in my utopia, that's what I would love, that sort of you bring what comes naturally to you, obviously to benefit and to serve other people, servers, and just to give of your overflow, whatever way you feel inclined, that in help of other, and in service of other people, to bring that to the table, and in return, everyone will just be able to sort of give the best of themselves 100%. To each other.
And everyone's valued for their strengths. Yeah. Not just your job titles,
exactly,
or your race, or whatever.
Exactly.
No, but it's so like in that racist kind of perspective, in that racism perspective, it's like you see, so like obviously football's had a lot of black players.
Yeah. I'm
not quite sure on the time periods and stuff like that, but it's always kind of been, there has been success involved. I don't want to talk to like, oh, it's successful and positive, because there is still, like, I mean, you go to last year in the England team, Sterling facing all that racism. It's not, football's not perfect in that way at all. But there is opportunity to do well in football as
Yeah.
a black person, whilst in a way you go into normal society, and it's only just starting to become a thing where you go around, you see like, oh, you go into court, there's loads of black lawyers and everything, and so it's like that is a good thing to football, but at the same time it's such a limited tunnel out into success.
Exactly. Yeah.
When for me, I've got such a broad, and obviously I chose I've gone down football, but there's such a broad in terms of education to progress onwards in life if it wasn't for football. Whilst it feels a lot more limited.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely true. It's a for me it's an accurate observation, and I feel like that's, in my opinion, I feel like that's as a result of what we've had conversations, and I feel like ownership is a massive facet in that, in terms of if sort of if people and the whole population is only used to seeing black people in certain roles, then I feel like that's not really likely to change if the people who want it to change, being black people, are not sort of having spaces where their qualities can sort of be their true and like alternative qualities can be seen. So, for example, I don't know. I just find it's quite tough because you don't tend to see a lot of places. It's more as we were saying, acting, singing, entertainment, football and other sports where you sort of see black people getting more of an opportunity than usual, which it is good to see, but you'd love to see a real expanse, because you know that that's not just by chance, but it's more just the norm.
Yeah, and with the awareness and everything that's going on, it is like we want to be positive about it. I know we've had situations where we've both been like, this is just so messed up because America is racism, England is built off racism as well, and there are huge problems that are not really changing in any way, but there are, we've got to have hope and obviously faith that small things are changing to build a system that will take down what is in place right now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But it's so true about that entertainer role, and that is the way out. Yeah. And it's so it's depressing in a way.
Yeah, when you really look into it, it's not something that would be sort of realised straight away. I don't think you see a lot of successful faces. Maybe I feel like there are a lot more sort of minorities in being household names.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not something that you would sort of realise that there's all something in common, and it tends to be entertainment. But I feel like in time it would like to see it change, and I think even these conversations that we're having, and the fact that you didn't maybe fast forward, but rewind a couple of years, and maybe you've grown in awareness in recent times, for example. So I think just having a deeper look at it like you have, and spreading the knowledge that you found, and having these conversations, that's just the first step, really. So.
No, it's obviously I've grown in that recently because of what's been going on, but it's that entertainer thing, and it's mad that we are entertainers like that, and especially in football.
Yeah.
Our worth is defined by how much value we can bring to other people and businesses in general.
Yeah. It's especially going into it and thinking of it in the business sense as well. I find it quite interesting, but helpful being aware of it. Sort of, it can be, as you're saying, quite sort of demoralising, but at the same time, having that knowledge of it, it can also be empowering, because as entertainers, we can begin to sort of, I say as entertainers, it sounds weird, I never call myself an entertainer, but as an athlete, you can sort of start to see the value that you bring, and it can be encouraging, and just to empower yourself. And I guess the awareness is the start of making sure that you know that you're more than that.
Exactly.
And that really takes us to what this is all about. And so having that awareness that I know that after my career, God willing, I'll have a long, successful career, hopefully. But afterwards, I know that that's not where it ends.
Exactly.
And there's a lot more competence that can be made use of and to serve people, hopefully. That's the ambition.
Yeah, 100%. I think like it's scary that, like you said, our worth is determined by the business. Obviously, it is like, oh, I have my power, but at the same time, in terms of like, obviously, we're going through as footballers contract negotiations, whether we're getting a new one, whether we're getting a renewal or a transfer, pretty much every year in a way.
Yeah.
Unless you're on some mad 5-year deal, so you just never need to think about that. But especially at this level, it's constant, and so all the time, our worth is being placed on us by by opinions, and it's like, obviously you know the answer already, but we're more than that. But it is like, it's really scary to think about it in that way, because as much as we have the power in who we are and all that, it's like at the same time financially, like, you're not just being given a set rate to this or to that, or there's no, like, you know, you go into a normal job and you pretty much, like, unless you get fired or you get a promotion or you stay there for 10 years, that's it.
Yeah.
But in here, you could be out the job 1 year, or you could have an incredible rise in 4 years and then you lose it all because one manager doesn't like you.
Yeah.
And so it's really mad that your worth is placed on you by other people's opinions, and then you're financially rewarded as to how much like value you bring to this business, who's focused on entertaining people.
Yeah, it's I don't really, with that one. It's such a complex thing to sort of think about. But for me, the only way I really cope with it is to sort of try and go off of my own opinion of myself as much as possible. So exactly. I like to be going into the athlete side of it, just to work hard and to be honest with yourself, feeding back to yourself, and things like looking and reviewing my games, and just, I don't know. There's some times where you have to sort of, if you're putting your value in what other people's opinions of you are too much, then I genuinely think it's probably bad for your health more than anything. So I feel like just being aware of yourself, not being I don't like to give myself too much credit, but that's just me. I like to be quite critical of myself so that I can get the best out of and try and maximise my potential. But it's definitely that awareness. You need to give yourself credit for things, even if other people aren't, and also be real with yourself. And I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's I mean, that's the perfect answer. But it's like, it is that, you know, you're being treated depending on how well you play.
Yeah.
If you play really well, all of a sudden people are like, you know, you're getting treated really well by the coaches and stuff. The second you start having bad games or come back from injury and you're not on it, it's difficult. It's like, I mean, for me, I don't want to go into too much detail, but my situation at the moment is, you know, there's been a couple of contract things where I haven't got what I wanted at the clubs I've been to, and it's been so difficult but important for me to maintain my self-worth, maintain this is who I am as a player, this is how good I am, this is still where I'm going, just because certain things haven't gone my way. And obviously not even opinions at this point, kind of just financial, all that sort of stuff, in terms of similarity with other players and not needing me. It's been so difficult because their opinions haven't fit with what I wanted, to then maintain this is who I am as a player, this is what I want to do, this is how good I am, and to keep that going when things aren't going your way, when you're not playing great, or people are saying you're not playing great. That's a mad one. You come in at half time and you thought, oh, I've done alright, I've created some stuff here, and the gaffer just absolutely rinses you at half time, and it's like, nah, I've got this. This is like the kind of player I am. This is what I do.
Yeah,
that's it.
No, yeah, definitely, and I think it's kind of, there's a balance of, you need to be level-headed with as to when you're getting criticism, to be able to tell yourself things that you are happy with about your own game. And likewise, when you're getting all the praise in the world, you need to be realistic as well with, I could have done this better, because no one knows yourself better than yourself.
Exactly, but always listen.
Yeah.
Like, always open.
Exactly.
I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing you do.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, not letting that determine, like you said before,
that's it.
who you are,
Yeah.
and what your worth is.
Exactly.
But there's so many, I think, as well, in our society. I don't want to get too broad and general. You know where I can go.
Yeah.
But it's like there's, how most of us aren't taught how to deal with it. We're not aware of how to deal with it, and so the mental health problems that come as a result of that.
Yeah.
In this, I mean, like Jeremy Whiston recently, the Man City. For those that don't know, the Man City player that recently took his own life. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after being released by Man City at 17 years old. Like,
it's heavy. It's a heavy one.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, obviously, and it's slowly growing in awareness. But I think football's so far behind that the problems with the mental health system, like the problems with the mental health in football, are just not addressed and made aware of. It really is like a scary madness, to be fair.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's not alone, to be fair, in terms of that it's something that's a very real problem that needs to be sort of addressed, and you wish that a lot of people were given more help than they are, and just the realization that there's everyone has so much more to them than football. So no, it's definitely something that I wish people were made more aware of by these clubs. And
to be at 17 and you've got your whole life ahead of you,
you're
17.
Yeah,
and I can't say much on 20, but still, it's such a young age to then thinking that's the be all and end all.
Yeah, and I feel like even to be able to play at such a high level and to have such a quality, I feel like you can definitely there are transferable skills that you can take into other walks of life, and it would just be amazing if people can know that that's a possibility, that there's so many channels, and also timing. Things might not be going easy in one area, but that you just really having the trust and the faith that something else will come up, and just being basically knowledge of self, knowing that everyone has such value, really.
Exactly. Or like, again, in lockdown right now, there'll be a lot of players, I mean, thousands of players out of the job.
Yeah.
And, it's a place where right now there's a lot of people in that situation.
Yeah.
And, there will be something good that will come from it. There is, a light at the end of the tunnel, whether it's through football and obviously we both wish that everyone who does want to be a footballer, reaches their full potential, becomes the best footballer they can be.
Yeah.
But that even if it doesn't work out, then we'll be having loads of more conversations on this as well. Yeah. But that's not all there is. You are you're a human before you're a footballer. But yeah, how do you deal with the mental health side of life and football, and obviously your relationship with religion?
Yeah, so for me, obviously everyone has their own like troubles and sort of issues in their life. No one's life's perfect, for example. But to sort of get through more challenges, I'm fortunately I'm in a family, I've been raised up knowing God, sort of thing, and having that faith is really that's what keeps me sort of grounded and keeps me sturdy. So I feel like just really trusting and having faith of whatever challenges we're going through, knowing that God loves me really, and that there's always that faith and that hope for better times, and that any situation, any trouble, that we can get through it. So that's sort of something that I really hold on dear to, and I'm just thankful for, to be fair. So just going off of that, really, that I just wish that sort of it was something that was really common, but unfortunately, it's not something that everyone's aware of, but hopefully that's sort of one of my drives for football as well, that I can just spread that awareness that Jesus loves everyone and that everyone's got an opportunity to sort of get out of whatever troubles there are and find better days, really.
100%. It's like, it's obviously I'm not religious per se in that label, in that category, but it is a real kind of mad thing to go that there is someone, no matter what things are happening down here, that there is someone always looking over you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a very relieving kind of thing, isn't it? And that things are not all in your control, like in your control and in your power, and that there is a journey that you are, being looked after on.
Yeah, definitely. I think that awareness is something that is sort of really, really helped me, and I think just as you're saying, the knowledge that not everything's in my control, but out of the things that are, and your mentality and your perspective towards what situation you're in, and just keeping sight of the desires of your heart. And also, one thing that we've spoken about in the past is, and this really helps me, the patience for what you're looking forward to and what your desires are, and what you're trusting, like even through so many things, through illness, through maybe not being where you are in your career, where you want to be. Just having that patience for better days, and also appreciating the moment that we're in right now.
Present's huge.
Yeah, so being pain-free, not being, right now I'm not injured. Like I wasn't happy with my game yesterday, for example, but I spoke to my parents on the phone and I said, I'm just happy that I came out of that game and I'm not injured for a start. Like, and that just sort of, I wasn't happy. I didn't score. You know what I'm like when I don't score. But just sort of taking the positives, and I feel like that balance is what helps me really.
Yeah, no, like it's like obviously we've got different journeys down that. My journey is kind of a journey of awareness.
Yeah.
Whilst obviously yours is a journey of religion, but it is that journey that you realise that when you're on one, and you're making continuous kind of progress down, and that you kind of know whether your path is being lit by God or Buddhism or whatever it is, whether you're lit by scientific consciousness, and that's how you see the world. That's great, but it's like that you're on that journey, and then because of that you see the bigger picture, and that you're not, like, your mental health is not just determined by one, like you as a person is not determined by one game where you don't score, and that there will always be good reasons to come out of it. Obviously I've had my ankle injuries, and when I've got to a point where I'm not really strapping it as often and everything, and that's a huge bonus to go and train. Like my ankle's good, I feel fit, I feel sharp, I feel healthy. There's no reason for me to not enjoy my football today, and there's no reason for me to not enjoy my journey right now. And like you said, that presence is seeing that bigger picture, going, I'm here right now on a journey that is so much bigger and greater than who I am. And that's so huge in itself.
It's true. And I even feel like, to be fair, like going off of what we said, like, and the first few phone calls that we had, like, I feel like it's almost like, because I wouldn't actually describe myself as being sort of religious. I think that's in sort of the behaviours. I would like to have sort of routine, like, which I don't now. My sister lived with me for the last 2 weeks, and she said, like, one thing you don't have is you have no organisation whatsoever. But so I wouldn't so much say. I feel like the word awareness, and for me a relationship with God is what I seek after, and I think off of that, sort of, hopefully eventually I'll get to a point where I can control or have a better bearing of how to feel good, really, and how to sort of be in touch. But I feel like a lot of the conversations we had, there were some similarities in our findings and sort of what we valued, really. I feel like that.
Yeah, I think that's what's mad, is that my journey's pretty much been without religion the whole time. And our values are still pretty much identical.
Exactly.
And it's such, like, I mean, the values of, kindness and giving and honesty and self-expression, as well as all those kind of things, and hard work and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly what's been obviously not word for word, but pretty similar to what's been written in the Bible and so on.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to kind of I got there out of intuition and awareness through constantly looking inward.
Yeah.
And it's all been written down there before, just under a different label, in a different category, a different book. And there's no coincidence for that.
Yeah, no.
And obviously my beliefs are that, like we get into this, is that there is no label to that source of intuition. There is no label to that something is out there that is there.
Yeah.
And so in that there is, I could say I believe in God.
Yeah.
I could say I believe in the Buddha. I could say I believe in Hinduism. I could say I believe in science and consciousness or whatever it may be. But it's kind of saying that I love and I believe in all of that, but the source for me will always be within me. And I guess that's the one that made a difference, is that for me, I believe, and again, this is probably going to rub people the wrong way, but I am God, you are God. Everyone is their own God in their way.
Yeah. I don't think, I feel like, and that's the thing, and these conversations we shouldn't sort of take, it's not I don't think people should take offence. I think people should listen. So I just wanted to it's not something that people should sort of take to heart. But yeah, sorry.
We're definitely not being provocative.
Yeah.
But yeah, that each of us has the power to see the perspective, and whether you say that's through God or through something else. I think it's the main thing is that you're seeing a bigger picture to life. And for me, whatever you believe in, that's great, and I love it all, and I'm open to it all. But for me, because it's so hard to express that feeling when you're not there's something more out there, and that you're not as much as the control and stuff is within you, when you can't really express that feeling that it's there. And so if you can't express that into words, then it doesn't need to be worded and put into a category and titled the Bible or titled Buddha's whatever, or written down and worked out into numbers and systems and everything. Yeah. And so for me, the beauty of it is that it's free from expression, and in a way, it's free in itself. It's free from being categorized, free from being labeled, and I think that's something really so open and so beautiful about it, because it's so much letting go of that. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to believe in. Now, if you believe this, everything that comes with it, you have to believe too. And so. With that openness, it's so you can let go, and obviously we talked about letting go, and that letting go and being present in that moment is so powerful because of the bigger picture you believe in. Yeah, and
it's powerful what you're saying. To be fair, even what you're saying about expressing it in words and in a to-do list almost. It's sort of. I don't know. I feel like with I think words are limiting. I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
So to go off of sort of feeling, I find that's invaluable. And like what you're saying, I feel like it's not so much of to follow a certain to-do list, but rather to seek truth. I feel like, and even though, like what we're saying, it's not like we have an identical sort of views just yet, but I feel like definitely we sort of, the values that we have lead us to a similar place of we both value showing love for one another, for example. And I feel that that's something that I couldn't tell you someone who doesn't sort of value that. So I feel like just that we're all brought together in love, really. So there's so many values that even regardless of labels and whatnot, that we can appreciate. But there was also, I think I told you about one scripture that sort of summed up. It was something that I wanted to tell you as well, and it was in Genesis. It said that God made us in His image. I think you read a little bit of it, didn't you?
Read that, yeah.
And I feel I kind of, for a long time, I didn't actually understand what. It's funny that we're getting all into it, but I didn't quite understand that for a long time. I sort of thought, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean we look exactly like it? Or do we look exactly like God? But one of the things that I found was that, and it really reminded me of what you're saying about sort of how, from what you seeked about people being their own God, was it?
You are your own God. Exactly.
Yeah, because I read, and it said basically that God made us, and saying that He made us in His image, basically it means that we're sort of likened unto God in a way. So I found that really interesting, because it was like, but then what it continued to say is that, and like we always talk openly to each other, like you tell me things that like you think, oh, I don't disagree or whatever, like that's what I love about it. And it said like having that likeness to God, it can go two ways. It can make you, or can go in a variety of ways, but it can make you really like be able to create and be inventive and love and do things like unto God. And it can also, what it said, and I found it made me like sort of think deeper about it. I've not actually come to a conclusion, but it said it can make people believe that they're God, but almost like be unsure as to what level they are on in relation to God. So I feel like there's, even with that, it was like, are they coming from a similar, is that what it's talking about? Is that coming from a similar place? But I feel like definitely, and a lot of the books you read as well, like I think I said before, like they all sort of come to a similar place. So it's mad. I think reading as well is what
I think
another value.
I think I heard a poem by that Inky guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said, I'm going to start my own religion. You are welcome to join it if you want, but if you were to join it, you'd miss the point. And it's like saying that everyone should have their own religion, because if you look deep enough, you'll have the same values of love and everything. And that poem always like really stuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, I think I'm going to get to, but it's like the one thing in that is that religion brings that out, like it brings that to you and those values. That's incredible. But with the awareness, then you're like unstoppable. And the same thing for me, even though I've got the awareness, if I can find the faith in the bigger picture and the faith in that there is something more, it makes me pretty unstoppable as well. And so that's such an interesting journey. But you touched on reading, and like reading is such a cool thing. Like the learning and the different perspectives and the journeys you go on in a book, and like to just like, for me, would you rather be scrolling with your phone or reading a book? Like,
no.
It's a sad little thing toward like our generation now. That reading's just slowed down massively.
There was one time I brought a book on the bus, and I literally put it out on the table, and then even the comments that I got of just putting the book out, I was like, this is the problem. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like it's because it was sort of out of the norm.
Yeah,
it wasn't really valued, but I think it's such a skill, and I think I'd love to see that change. I think just having these open conversations and knowing that a lot of people have interests that we weren't aware of, like what we found out. There's probably thousands more relationships like ours who people can have with their own teammates that they've not realised or not had that first conversation with. So it's just encouraging really to sort of speak to the people around you and get a deeper understanding of them.
100%.
Take the first step. Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to kind of round it to a close. Obviously, I'll link your socials in and everything. But before we finish, what kind of one question I'm going to get going throughout is, what makes you more than a footballer, more than an athlete? What makes you human? Good question, isn't it?
That is a mad one. How am I going to answer that, man? What would I say? I feel like my answer would be, and we literally ended on it, spirit for me. I feel like that's in the way that we said, words are limiting in that they don't carry the exact representation of the object or the energy or what's behind it. And I feel like a lot of books and a lot of, I think, a more modern way of saying spirit. People like to use energy or I don't know, vibes and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what I'm more familiar with the term spirit. But who I am and what my original creation was, and as I think you summed up really, would you be able to do that actually about being in a room and the walls? You did that.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do that at some point.
Yeah, if that would be amazing to go out. But I think just what you are at the very crux of your being, and everyone has that, and I feel like everyone's is different as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just my knowledge of that, I mean, I'm still yet to seek even more into my own spirit. That, but I feel like that's what differentiates me from anyone else, and that's basically all that I can bring to the table.
Exactly.
Football, my conversations, my expression, it all comes from my spirit. So I feel like that's really what I am.
What a mad way of putting it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you for a set of brilliant conversation. I enjoyed that massively.
Yeah.
That was good. All right.
Thank you so
much love as
Yeah.
always. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I really appreciate it.